Have you ever noticed you feel worse after eating leftovers? I mean it. Not right away, not violently sick, just off. A strange tiredness, some mild stomach discomfort, maybe a foggy kind of forgetfulness you can't quite explain. You brush it off. We all do. Maybe I didn't sleep well. Maybe it's just age. But what if the real reason is sitting right there in your microwave? Because here's something almost no one tells you. Some of the most common foods we reheat, especially as we get older, can quietly become harmful. Not because they're bad foods, not because you did anything wrong, but because the chemical structure of certain foods changes when reheated. And in bodies over 60, that change can mean digestive issues, inflammation, even a higher risk of memory loss, or worse. The worst part, we don't notice. We keep reheating the same meals. Leftover potatoes, a little chicken, a bowl of rice, and all the while, we think our bodies are just slowing down. But what if that's not age at all? What if it's just a few small habits that nobody warned us about? The good news? Once you know which foods to be careful with and how to handle them safely, the fix is simple. So if you care about protecting your health with gentle, wise choices, not fear, not guilt, just quiet awareness, then I invite you to subscribe. Turn on the bell too, so you don't miss anything. Because this space was made for you. And today, you're about to learn something most people never hear until it's too late. In this video, you're going to learn about 5 everyday foods that many of us reheat without a second thought, but that can quietly become harmful once they've been cooked and left to sit. Not scary foods, not rare foods, just the simple things we all have in our kitchens. Rice, potatoes, spinach, chicken, mushrooms. The same foods we grew up eating and saving for later. But when they're handled the wrong way, especially in older bodies, they can start to affect things we care deeply about, like our digestion, our energy, and even our memory. This isn't about fear. This is about knowing better so you can do better. Number 1, reheated mushrooms. Mushrooms are one of those foods that feel almost too healthy to question. They're earthy, hearty, full of nutrients. You toss them into a stir-fry, sauté them with onions, maybe layer them into a warm casserole. And you feel good about it, and rightly so. But mushrooms also have a delicate side. Once they're cooked, they don't stay the same for long. You see, mushrooms are packed with protein, and like many protein-rich foods, they're sensitive to changes in temperature. Reheating mushrooms, especially in the microwave, can quietly turn your healthy meal into a gut irritant. This breakdown can create new compounds that aren't always friendly to the digestive system. What makes it tricky is that mushrooms also carry natural enzymes and trace bacteria. Cooking them usually neutralizes those, but if the dish sits out too long or isn't stored properly, things can reactivate in ways that upset the gut. So when you go back to reheat them, especially after they've been in the fridge a day or two, they might taste fine, but leave you with cramps, bloating, or nausea afterward. For older adults with sensitive stomachs, acid reflux, or gut inflammation, this isn't just a mild inconvenience, it's a real source of discomfort. And because mushrooms are soft and often mixed into meals, it's easy to forget they were even there, let alone suspect them as the cause. So what can you do? You don't have to stop enjoying mushrooms altogether. They're still incredibly nutritious when eaten fresh. Just be extra mindful of how you store and reheat them. Try to eat mushroom dishes the same day you cook them. Mushrooms are meant to be enjoyed fresh, not twice cooked. If you do have leftovers, cool them quickly and store them in the fridge right away. When reheating, avoid the microwave. Use the stovetop instead and heat them thoroughly, just once. Or, if the dish allows, skip reheating and eat them cold. And if that container's been sitting in the fridge for a few days and you're unsure, it's perfectly okay to let it go. Aging doesn't mean you stop enjoying food. It just means you learn which habits support your body and which ones quietly work against it. Choosing not to reheat mushrooms isn't about being fussy. It's about giving your body one less thing to fight. Because feeling well after a meal shouldn't be a gamble, it should be the norm. And that starts with small, quiet choices made out of care for yourself. Number 2, reheated potatoes. There's something about potatoes that just feels like home. They're simple, reliable, the kind of food that fills a plate and stretches across a few days without much fuss. You might mash them with butter, roast them crisp and golden, or bake them in foil as part of a Sunday dinner. And more often than not, there's a container waiting in the fridge afterward, just enough to reheat and enjoy again. But there's something we were never really told. Once potatoes are cooked and cooled, they don't stay the same. Their chemistry changes in a way that can quietly cause problems, especially for older adults. When a potato cools after being cooked, it starts developing what's called resistant starch, a kind of starch that's harder for the body to digest. That part isn't dangerous by itself. But the real issue starts when potatoes are left sitting out too long, particularly if they were wrapped in foil, which holds in moisture and heat. That warm, damp environment is perfect for certain bacteria to grow. And one of those bacteria, under the wrong conditions, can create a toxin that affects your nervous system. This illness is called botulism, and while it's rare, it's also serious. What makes it especially tricky is that you won't see, smell, or taste anything wrong. The potatoes might look perfectly fine, even smell just like they did the day before. And unfortunately, if that toxin is present, reheating the potatoes won't destroy it. That's why this is more than just a food safety tip. It's a health protection moment, especially for older bodies. Our immune systems naturally weaken with age. Digestion slows. Recovery takes longer. So while a younger person might bounce back from a little food-related illness in 24 hours, someone over 60 can feel the effects for days. Weakness, nausea, loss of appetite, fatigue. And when you're already managing other health conditions or medications, a bad meal can throw everything off balance. I remember someone once telling me about a meal they had, just some leftover mashed potatoes from dinner the night before. Nothing unusual, but later that evening, they felt an odd heaviness in their stomach. No vomiting, no sharp pain. Just this drained, uncomfortable feeling they couldn't quite place. It lingered all the next day. At the time, they didn't think much of it. But looking back, those potatoes had been left out on the counter for hours before going into the fridge, and it clicked. That little detail, easily overlooked, was probably what made all the difference. That's how it happens, quietly, through routine, through habit. So what can we do about it? The first step is simple. Cool your potatoes properly. Within 2 hours of cooking, and ideally even sooner, get them into the refrigerator. If they were baked in foil, unwrap them before storing so they cool evenly and don't trap moisture. Use shallow containers whenever possible. That helps them chill faster, reducing the chance for bacteria to grow. And if you do reheat them, make sure they're steaming hot all the way through, not just warm around the edges. Microwaves can be unreliable for this, so if you can, use the stove or oven where you can stir or flip the food evenly. But here's something I often recommend instead. Don't reheat them at all. You can repurpose leftover potatoes into meals that are safe and still satisfying. Slice cold boiled potatoes into a salad with olive oil and herbs. Stir them into a veggie scramble. Mash them into little patties and pan-fry them fresh, just once. No reheating, no risk. And if you've ever stood at the microwave, poking at a dry, rubbery scoop of mashed potatoes that's gone crusty at the edges, that might be your sign that the meal has already lost its comfort and maybe isn't worth the trouble. You don't need to force yourself to eat food that doesn't sit right, just because it's still in the fridge. A lot of us were raised to never waste anything. We ate leftovers for days, stretched one meal into 4, and felt proud of it. But at this stage in life, the question isn't just, is it still edible? It's, will this actually make me feel good after I eat it? That's what eating well means now. It's not about perfection or expensive habits. It's about steady energy, gentle digestion, and trusting your own comfort as a guide. If something smells a little off, feels too dry, or makes you pause, trust that pause. It's not wasteful to choose health. It's wisdom. And wisdom is something you've earned, meal by meal, year by year. You've spent decades feeding others. Now you get to feed yourself in a way that feels nourishing, not just filling. Because you deserve to sit down a plate that supports your body, not one that leaves it struggling afterward. Are you starting to notice a pattern? These everyday foods, the ones we rely on for comfort or convenience, can quietly turn against us when we're just trying to make ends meet. But the good news is, knowledge like this puts you back in control. Number 3, reheated chicken. Chicken is one of those foods that seems to always be in the fridge. Maybe you baked a few thighs for Sunday dinner. Maybe you picked up a rotisserie bird from the store. Either way, there's a good chance a leftover piece or two ended up in a container, waiting for its turn in the microwave. It's familiar, it's filling, and let's be honest, we were raised to make food last. But once we reach a certain age, our bodies ask us to look at things a little differently. And reheated chicken? That's one of those small habits worth rethinking. The trouble with chicken isn't the first time you cook it, it's what happens after that. Chicken is high in protein, and when that protein is cooked, cooled, and then reheated, especially in the microwave, it changes. The texture stiffens, yes, but more importantly, if it's not reheated evenly and thoroughly, bacteria that develop during cooling may survive. Microwaves heat from the outside in, so while the edges might look piping hot, the inside could still be lukewarm. That's the perfect zone for bacteria like Salmonella or Campylobacter to linger. And those names may sound clinical, but the symptoms are all too real. Nausea, fatigue, stomach cramps, and for seniors, sometimes days of recovery. When I was younger, I wouldn't think twice. A quick zap in the microwave and I was good to go. But now, one bad meal can throw off everything. You feel too tired to eat the next day. You skip your walk, you don't sleep as well. It creates a ripple effect that lasts longer than it should. I remember a friend of mine, Evelyn, who told me about a time she reheated chicken for dinner, went to bed feeling off, and by morning she was completely wiped out. Nothing serious, thankfully, but it took her a full weekend to feel steady again. And for someone living alone, that kind of dip in energy can be a real setback. That's why this isn't just about food safety. It's about staying strong enough to do the things you still want to do. See, our immune systems slow down with age, our digestion isn't as fast, and our bodies don't bounce back quite the same way. What might have been a quick stomach bug at 40 can turn into dehydration, appetite loss, or worse at 70 or 80. So what can you do differently? First, always store cooked chicken within 2 hours. Use shallow containers so it cools faster and more evenly. When it's time to reheat, skip the microwave if you can. Use the stovetop or oven, and make sure it's heated all the way through, not just on the outside. But here's an easier solution many of us forget. Eat it cold. Cold chicken can be wonderful. Shredded over a fresh salad, tucked into a sandwich with some spinach and mustard, or stirred into a pasta bowl with olive oil and herbs. It's safer, easier, and sometimes even more flavorful. And if you've ever stared at that last piece of chicken in the container, thinking, I should probably finish this, even though you didn't feel great about it, that little voice matters. That's your body saying, be gentle with me today. Many of us were raised not to waste food, but there's a difference between being practical and being hard on yourself. Protecting your health isn't wasteful. It's wise. You've cooked for others more times than you can count. You've made meals that comforted, nourished, and healed. Now it's your turn to choose meals that treat you with that same kind of care. And if this kind of conversation, slow, honest, practical, feels like the kind of support you've been missing, you're welcome here. Feel free to subscribe. We talk about everyday things because they quietly shape the way we feel. And I'd love to hear in the comments, have you ever had a meal that left you feeling off, but you weren't sure why? Let's share what we've learned. Your story could help someone else feel a little less alone. Because at the end of the day, you deserve more than just getting by with leftovers. You've worked hard to stay healthy. Don't let yesterday's dinner rob you of today's energy. A little caution now can save you a lot of discomfort later. Number 4, reheated rice. Rice is one of those foods that always seems to be hanging around the fridge. Maybe it came with last night's takeout. Maybe it was left over from a casserole or a quick dinner with chicken and green beans. It's easy to make, easy to store, and easy to reheat. Or at least, that's what we've always thought. But here's what most people don't know. Rice can actually be one of the riskiest leftovers when it comes to food safety. It all comes down to a bacteria called Bacillus cereus. This bacteria is naturally present in many raw foods, and rice happens to be one of them. When you cook rice, you kill most bacteria, but the spores from this one can survive. And if the cooked rice sits out too long at room temperature, those spores multiply and release toxins. The worst part? Reheating the rice doesn't destroy those toxins. So what does that mean? You could reheat a bowl of rice, eat it, and everything might taste perfectly normal. But within a few hours, you're dealing with stomach cramps, nausea, or just a strange, drained feeling you can't quite explain. Now, younger folks might shrug that off, but as we get older, the risks grow bigger. Your digestive system doesn't work quite as fast. Your immune system isn't as sharp. Something that would have passed in an afternoon at 40 might linger for days now and leave you weak, dehydrated, or skipping meals altogether. That kind of setback might not seem dramatic at first, but for seniors already managing fatigue, blood pressure, or medication schedules, it's the kind of thing that throws your whole rhythm out of balance. And here's the hard part. Rice is one of the most common leftovers, especially for older adults living alone. It's quick, it stores well, and it feels like a smart, frugal option. So this isn't about blame. It's about bringing something quiet into the light so you can make better choices moving forward. So let's talk about what works better. First, never leave cooked rice sitting out for more than 1 hour. Not even while you tidy up or let it cool a little on the counter. It needs to go straight into the fridge in a shallow container so it cools evenly. If it's been more than a day or two and you're not sure it'll reheat evenly, it might be better to let it go. And if you do choose to reheat, take the extra minute to stir it well and heat it thoroughly. Not just warm on top, but hot through the middle. Your comfort is worth that little bit of extra care. But here's the gentler solution, the one that many of my friends find easier. Skip reheating altogether. Use cold rice in simple, safe ways. Toss it into a cold rice salad with veggies and vinaigrette. Add a few spoonfuls to a bowl with black beans, avocado, and shredded lettuce. Or stir it into some cottage cheese and seasonings for a light, easy lunch. You might be surprised how much better your body feels when you avoid that second heating altogether. You ever reheat rice and it just doesn't turn out right? It's dry. It sticks to the sides of the bowl. You add a little water, cover it, microwave it again, and still it feels like you're forcing it down. That quiet frustration, that moment when the meal just doesn't sit right, it matters more than we think. Sometimes your body is trying to tell you something. This isn't helping anymore. Not just in taste, but in how you feel afterward. So instead of pushing through, try giving your leftovers a little upgrade. If you're not a fan of cold rice, you can toss it into a pan with a bit of olive oil, stir in some peas or scrambled egg, and heat it fresh, just once. That's a better path than reheating the same bowl 2 or 3 times and hoping it still feels good. Because at this stage of life, eating well isn't just about being frugal or making do. It's about how food leaves you feeling steady, light, clear-headed, and comfortable. That's what your body needs more than ever now. Not just to be fed, but to be supported. And more importantly, it's what you deserve. Number 5, reheated spinach. Spinach has earned its reputation as a superfood, and for good reason. It's full of vitamins, iron, and antioxidants. It's easy to toss into a pan, stir into soup, or sauté with garlic for a quick, healthy side. But here's the part many people don't realize. When spinach is cooked and then reheated, especially more than once, it can start to work against your body, not for it. That's because spinach contains something called natural nitrates. These are usually a good thing. They help your blood vessels relax and improve circulation. But when spinach is reheated, those harmless nitrates can convert into nitrites, and in some cases nitrosamines, compounds that have been linked to cancer risk when consumed repeatedly over time. Now, this doesn't mean spinach is dangerous. It isn't. But how it's handled after cooking is where the trouble can begin. Especially if it's left out too long or reheated in the microwave where heat spreads unevenly. And for older adults, this small detail matters more than most people think. As we age, our bodies become more sensitive to chemical changes in food. The liver processes things slower, the stomach lining thins, and our ability to detox and recover from even mild irritants isn't what it used to be. If you're already navigating fatigue, inflammation, or chronic conditions, adding reheated spinach to the mix may quietly make things worse. You might feel heavy after eating, bloated, a little foggy, or just not quite right. even though the meal seemed healthy on the surface. And if memory, focus, or circulation are already areas you're watching closely, it's worth knowing that certain food byproducts, like those in reheated spinach, have been studied for their potential link to cognitive decline when eaten frequently over time. So what's the better path? The best option is to only cook what you'll eat in one sitting when it comes to spinach. It cooks fast and wilts down quickly. A handful goes a long way. But if you do have leftovers, store them immediately within 1 hour and reheat them just once, using the stovetop instead of the microwave. Stir often to make sure it heats evenly. Or try this, skip the reheating altogether. Add cold cooked spinach into a sandwich or wrap. Stir it into warm soup just before serving so it wilts gently without overcooking. Blend it into a smoothie with banana and almond milk. Or toss it into scrambled eggs right before they finish cooking. That way, it only heats once and stays nutrient-rich. If that sounds like a lot of effort, remember, it's not about being perfect. It's about making small choices that feel better for your body now. And here's something worth saying. Spinach has always been marketed as the smart food. But the smart thing isn't just eating it. It's knowing how to use it in a way that still feels good after the meal is over. Because what good is a healthy food if it leaves you uncomfortable afterward? At this stage of life, you don't owe anyone a clean plate or a perfect routine. You've earned the right to eat in a way that supports your energy, your mind, and your peace of mind. That's what food should give you now. Not guilt, not bloating, not fog. Just steady, nourishing support, one bite at a time. Let's be honest, nobody wants to feel afraid of their own leftovers. Food should bring comfort, not consequences. And the truth is, most of us grew up learning to save and reheat our meals. It made sense back then. It still does in many ways. But as we get older, the rules shift a little. Our bodies become less forgiving, and what once felt harmless may now stir up trouble, quietly, unexpectedly. You don't need to toss out everything in your fridge or swear off your favorite dishes forever. Sometimes it's just about noticing the little patterns. The stomachache that always follows a certain meal, the fatigue that sneaks in after a bite of something off. That awareness? That's wisdom in action. Start small. Maybe today it's choosing to skip the reheated mushrooms. Tomorrow it might be letting go of that old habit of zapping leftovers on high. You're not giving things up. You're giving yourself more comfort, more clarity, more care. And if this video helped even a little, if it made you think twice in a way that felt empowering, not scary, I'd love for you to subscribe. This space is here for you, with honest conversations that put your well-being first. Let's keep learning and living well together.